Welcome to Mitchell Levy Presents, where I dive into the essential elements of clarity and credibility. Hosted by global credibility expert Mitchell Levy, today's episode offers invaluable insights to make you think and act more credibly. Join us as we explore living your values, boosting your credibility, and leading purposefully. Hi, Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert, and I got to do one of these twice this week, and I'm so excited about being in one of my most favorite times. When I get to talk to somebody else who's spectacular, you're going to meet her in a moment. When I get to talk to somebody who's spectacular about their values, it just brings glow and energy to me. So I want to welcome Mary Olson-Menzel. Mary, welcome.
Thank you, Mitchell. It's so good to be here.
Oh, good. So, first question I love asking is, who are you?
Such a loaded question, Mitchell, but I will try to dive in and do it justice. I am a human being. I'm a mom of 2 stepkids and 1 biological son, so 3 kids in total. I am a wife, a sister, a daughter, and an executive coach and an author.
Nice. By the way, nice answer. Thank you. It's very well-rounded answer. So I have a question then. Given all the roles you play, are you the same person in all roles, or do you change based on which one you mentioned?
Well, you know what? If you ask my family, I think they would say I'm the same in most roles. I don't really, I feel like I'm pretty much my authentic self, no matter where I am, no matter what role I am. And my family laughs because they're like, wait, Mom, are we doing what's lighting us up? Mom, are we, living our best life? That kind of thing. So yeah, I'd say I'm the same person in all.
Now, by the way, I think about this for myself. There are some people in my family, when they go to weddings or other events, funerals, I guess we got both of those these days. And and those family members really couldn't care about the playground I play in. And so I just, other than that, I'm the same me, but we don't really cover that. When they say, how are things going at work, like work's play for me. I- it's, I don't go into a lot of detail. Do you have that as well, or?
It depends on the age group of the family members, I think. Back in the day when I left corporate America and entered into being an entrepreneur, starting my company, doing executive coaching, my mom used to be like, God, I think you do something really cool, but I can't really explain what it is. So every time I would try to explain it to her, she'd be like, yeah, still don't get it, which is fine. Right. But I think, yeah, you definitely have to adjust your conversation based on the audience and based on what people want to know.
Well, I love the title of your book, and you can easily say, oh, I support people and I help light them up, right? What lights you up?
Being here with you. That's one thing. I love having meaningful conversations with people. I love actually being able to help people and guide them towards better lives and really help them to tap into what lights them up in order to live a more fulfilling, not just career, but life.
What does the word meaningful conversation mean to you?
Something that's not superficial, something that is not just, hey, Mary, Mitchell, how are you? How are the kids? Oh, they're great. Something that takes you a little bit deeper into how are you really doing? How are you really feeling? What's really lighting you up? And maybe what's also keeping you up at night?
Now, keeping you up is both positive and negative.
Well, it depends on if you're in menopause or not, but I would say keeping you up, it tends to be a negative in my book. So lighting you up is what's getting you excited, what's, really getting you excited for life, what's keeping you up is kind of those 3 a.m. wake up calls where you're stressed about things or you're starting to worry about something.
I'm still thinking about this word meaningful. What's meaningful to you is share that a little bit more. I think you shared it, but I'm still wrapping my arms around what you said.
Taking it deeper than a superficial conversation, right? And there's many times, where you run into neighbors or colleagues or whatever, and oh, Mitchell, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? Let's get beneath the fine. Let's talk about how we really are. Let's talk
Mm.
about the things that truly matter to us versus those things that are like, oh, the weather's great here in New York. How is it in San Francisco, Mitchell?
Yeah. All right. So you and I are to some extent in the same business. How do you how do you determine for you personally? Oh, this is better. Um, for your biological son, do you work with him on helping him be lit up?
I do. Well, lucky kid, he's pretty naturally lit up. But we do talk a lot. There's a situation that happened a couple of years ago where he wanted to try out for the football team at the high school. And I have had 3 concussions in my life, and I wanted to protect him from any injuries or anything, any potential injuries. And he came back to me and he said, Mom, you coach people for a living to do what they love and follow their dreams and follow their passions. Why would you stand in the way of me following my dreams and passions? And he had me. He had me
Well,
there.
how do you argue? You
Listen,
can't argue. You can't argue with a well-equipped kid who gives your words back to you.
he does. He does. And actually, he's a sophomore now, and he just made the varsity football team. So he's doing really well, and he's following his passions.
Wow. Wow. That's interesting. What was your immediate response when he said those words to you?
I took a deep breath and I thought, ooh, okay, this is going to warrant a really important response. And so I said, all right, you have a point there. Let's talk it through. Let's talk it through. Why do you want to do this? Not just because you're passionate about it, but let's talk it through and let's talk about the pros and the cons. And then we can make an educated decision on whether or not this is a good decision for you.
Hmm. How about with your husband?
I mean, my husband is a huge football fan. So, watching his kid on the field is like his happy place. So it was a no brainer for him, other than, once again, the potential injury factor. But that's with almost any sport, right? He plays lacrosse and there's just as much potential. It's the risk that you take when you go onto a field.
Thank you. I'm going to switch the topics for a little bit. So your book's been in the marketplace. I've listened to it, and you've gotten some feedback. What was, and I'm curious about the best feedback and potentially the worst feedback you've received.
Great question. I think the best feedback I've gotten is that it actually has changed people's lives for the better.
Isn't that cool?
That's, I mean, that is why I wrote the book. That's what it's all about. Um, Funny enough, the I'm trying to think of worst feedback, but some feedback, especially for those who have listened to it on Audible, where people said, I really wish it was your voice. I really wish that you had done the audiobook so that I could feel like you were talking to me.
Oh no, 100%.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
ditto on that.
Yeah. Next book, I'll do the audiobook myself.
It's, by the way, from a use of time, you know, you can never justify the amount of money that comes in from Audible sales, but the real important thing is you wrote the book so people could see you when you're not in the room, but then you gave away the who you are, and even Even AI. I want you. I want your stories. I want your feeling. I want your voice. I want you being lit up by reading it.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I did write the book so that people who didn't have access to me or access to coaches or the means to pay for a coach had access to these 10 steps that can help them tap into what lights them up and pivot into a better, more fulfilling life. And I will say that one of the things that I was speaking at a Kellogg event in New York City recently, and an old Kellogg cohort colleague of mine said, "Wait, tell us, did you have AI write this?" And I was like, "Oh my God, no, that's like absolutely not." I didn't even, I mean, when I started writing it, AI wasn't even really a thing. So, maybe AI could have helped speed up the process, but yeah, all me.
Yeah, interesting. What are you most excited about in your life at the moment?
Mm. I am excited to travel with my family. I was telling you earlier, we have a big trip planned for over the holidays. I'm excited to watch my kids grow up into these really amazing human beings, which I like get totally get emotional about because they're all growing up into these amazing human beings who are doing well and tapping into their own greatness. And then I'm excited for, as they all launch, what does that look like? What does life look like when, I can even travel more and put more good out there into the world?
Nice. What I was curious on the types of clients that are attracted to you. Who are they typically?
Hmm. It's really clients who yearn to be better. And that can be a client, we have different coaching programs that we do. It could be a client who wants to get promoted within their own organization. It could be a client who just wants to amplify their leadership and elevate their teams. Or it could be a client who really is yearning for more meaning in their life.
So it sounds to me though that the clients are coming in directly versus through the company.
Clarify that question, Mitchell.
Oh, um, there you talked all about corporate people, um, but it sounded to me based on what they were looking for that they come directly to you
Oh,
versus the corporation saying, "Hey, work with our people to do the following."
so actually, it's both. So the a lot of times a CEO or a leader will call us and say, "I want to promote Mitchell from VP of Sales to Chief Revenue Officer. Can you help him get there?" So there's that. And then also there's the corporate teams that come to us for workshops and to elevate their teams and to do not only one-on-one coaching but group coaching. And then on the flip side, there are people who come to us for the What Lights You Up pivot program. And those are the individuals who come and pay with their own money and everything else. So we've got the corporate side and we've got the individual side. And it's a big, beautiful marriage of a whole bunch of different ways that people find us.
Hmm, gotcha. Tracking. So you and I engage each other's content on LinkedIn, and I like what you write. What I'm curious about is when was the last time, and this is not based on experience, when was the last time that you grabbed somebody else's content and shared that? I'm talking about spreading somebody's cred dust, sharing the ideas, thoughts, and actions of others. And I know you do that. And I'd like to hear an example of when you did that and why.
Gosh. And I feel like I'm doing so much on LinkedIn. I think we both are. And I like your content too. I'm glad we're doing this together. Um, I think when it feels particularly relevant to my audience, right, which is the people who are trying to further their careers, live these lives of success and contentment. I think when I see a friend or a colleague who's posting something about that, I will probably most likely share it.
Can you remember an example?
I can't think of one off the top of my head. I know I have shared some of yours in the past. But yeah, I can't think of a specific example in the past couple of weeks. But I'll have to get back to you on that.
I'll bet you at some point in time you told me you had just had time with Todd Churches, who speaks visually. I'm sure you've shared his stuff in the past.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And Todd
Yeah.
is so great.
Nice. That's interesting to me. So tell me what's next for you. What's on the horizon that you're excited about, in terms of like who you are, how you show up today, and then what's next?
Yeah, I am working on creating more balance in my life. The past couple of years have been very, very family driven and client driven, book driven, so just a lot of outward supporting others, working very hard to support others, including friends, family, and colleagues and clients. And what I've realized this year is that I have to do the same thing for myself. I have to give myself the space and the grace to live my best life and to be there for everybody else. But I can't do that if I'm not taking good care of myself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and all of the above.
I'm curious. So, by the way, that's true with almost every practitioner. It's that cobbler's shoe thing. You know, um, they don't always do for themselves or recognize the importance of doing for themselves what they do for others. Is there something that facilitated that in you or precipitated that? Oh my God, I can't believe I have to do this for me.
Yes. Well, I think that burnout is very real right now, Mitchell. I was on NBC earlier this year talking about the percentage. I mean, it's over 50% of Americans are burned out in their jobs right now. And so here I am giving advice about burnout. And what I realized that I was burned out myself. And,
Mm,
what my son Christopher, the one who plays football, reminded me was that I have to take my own advice every once in a while. And there was an aha moment that happened to me. I had 2024 was a very big year. I lost my mom. I launched a
mm,
book, became a bestseller. Like it was just a year of a lot. Excuse me. And when 2025, kind of came around the corner, I just kept going at the same pace. And it's funny because I think you and I even spoke about this in the spring, where I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and I didn't know when to stop. I didn't
mm,
know when to slow down to take care of myself until I got to Washington, D.C. for a women's conference that was run by our friend Fiona McCauley, the Wild Women's Network. And another one of our friends, Tasha Yurick, spoke. And she talked about shatterproof and resilience and your resilience ceiling and how you can kind of break free from some of these things that cause burnout and cause additional stress. And she put us into breakouts. And I sat in a breakout with Michelle Johnston and Susie Bishop, and they were amazing. And it was a beautiful place of trust. And I just like almost started crying because I realized that I was at the top of my resilience ceiling. And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to pour from an empty cup and that I needed to reassess and take a little look at how I was living my life and also how I was running my business and say, okay, where do we need to transform and where do we need to, kind of pivot a little bit in order to sustain the, excellence that we're putting out there, and to actually amplify the excellence that we're putting out there. And so what I realized was that I needed to
Hmm.
slow down in order to speed up. And once I took my foot off the gas, it was like the universe was like, all right, Mary, we're going to bring you even more cool clients and interesting projects and things like that. So it was me taking my own advice, but also having a wake up moment in Washington, D.C. with a bunch of female colleagues.
Nice. So what was the pivot?
The pivot was, we were, first of all, well, what I do now, and I was doing it pretty consistently before, but now it's like a non negotiable. When I wake up, get my kid off to school, I immediately do a meditation, morning meditation, and then I immediately do my morning workout so that no matter what happens during the day, I am prepared and grounded for whatever comes my way and whatever comes my client's way, right? Because I'm getting calls from clients at all hours too saying, wait, do you have 15 minutes to talk about this or negotiate an offer or whatever it is? So there's that non negotiable. And also just really, really doing almost like a gut check, right? When a client comes and asks us to do something, is this something where we can really make an impact? And is it going to be fun for us?
Hmm.
So I'm really bringing the joy factor back.
Nice. I like both those questions. That's pretty cool. And I wonder how many people, when, if you look at your clients, how many of your clients have to get the yes on both those? Will we be able to make an impact? Somebody coming in, they have a big check. We want to pay you. Can we make an impact? And will we have fun? Those are as simple as those are.
I know.
Those are not necessarily things that if somebody says, well, I have a chance to make a lot of money, but maybe we won't be successful, or maybe it won't be fun, but we're making a lot of money. How many people, how do you make that distinction? Like, you could talk about how you do it, but how do you share that with your clients so they understand the importance of that?
Yes. Well, first of all, it's about integrity and it's about what you know best, credibility, right? And if you are coming, from an alignment of values with your clients, if you're making decisions from integrity, that obviously leads to credibility. But I think it's really, really important. I don't think I ever was at the point where I would say yes just because of the money. Um, I've always been very intentional. If I can't help this person, I will refer them to somebody else who I trust. I don't want to take money if I can't help them, right? That's just the bottom line. So the the idea is truly, right? Can I help them? Can I make their lives better by working with them? But also, are we going to have fun together? And are we aligned with our values and our morals and the direction of where we want to go together?
So, how many times do you think you've said no?
Hmm, probably more than my husband would like. We call him the CFO of our household. Sometimes he's the chief fun officer. Sometimes he's actually the chief financial officer of our household. And there was another pivotal moment in my life in 2021 when I phased out the executive search side of MVP's business. And as I made that decision and kind of drew that line in the sand and stood in my truth to do what lights me up, I got two really big opportunities to do some very, very large searches, like CEO searches that would have brought in a lot of income that year. And I said no, because I
Mm.
knew I had to stand in my truth. And I knew that if I kept saying yes, I would continue to be doing executive search and coaching for the rest of my life. And there was a certain moment where I just said, I have to stand in my truth. I'm going to live in my values and take my own advice to do what lights me up. And that is the coaching.
That's interesting. So essentially, you've identified at that stage your compass, and this was not pointing north, this was pointing south.
Yeah. I mean, it was pointing in a beautiful way in our bank account if I chose to say yes, but it wasn't something that was going to light me up. And I had already made that decision. So I needed to stand in that decision and hold steady to my own truth.
How do you actually, that's a bold thing, and that's a really strong thing, and that's really core to your values, understanding the importance of that. How do you convince, and actually you can't convince anything, but how do clients actually see that and see the importance of choosing the right path?
So with clients, we do a lot of scenario planning, right? Okay, so if you're going to make this decision, what does this look like? If you're going to make this decision, what does it look like? But I also do an exercise that I've done with clients of all levels, CEOs who you've heard of, who are out there in public companies, to, you know, um, entrepreneurs. And it's really about checking in with yourself, right? And truly, it sounds a little bit hokey, but I always say to them, all right, so you're at this fork in the road. Close your eyes, take a deep breath. Where do you picture yourself? And what is the opportunity on a scale of 1 to 10? How much is it getting you excited? And if their answer is 3, go the other way.
Hmm.
I want people to be excited about their lives, excited about their jobs, to feel that sense of fulfillment when they wake up or when they put their head on the pillow at night.
Nice. That is nice. So, hey, listen, guys, if this was exciting to you hearing Mary speak and who she is, and if you say to yourself right now, I want to be lit up, I need that. Well, certainly you could buy her book. Um, and if you wanted to reach out to her, Mary, what would be the best way for people to reach out to you?
The best way to connect, and we talked about this earlier, is on LinkedIn. I think that LinkedIn is still a very powerful vehicle for networking. And, if you reach out and say you heard me on Mitchell's podcast, I will absolutely connect and stay connected with you and see what I can do to help you live the life of your dreams as well. Or you can also go to our website, MaryOlsonMenzel.com. You can read all about the book and some of the things that we've been doing. But LinkedIn is pretty much the best place to catch me.
Awesome. All right. So what I loved about your interview style, it's much more TV responses versus radio responses. So I got to ask probably 2 to 3 times more questions than most people, which is kind of cool, and it was fun for me. That said, is there a question that you would have liked me to ask that I didn't?
I love that you said the TV thing. I mean, it's so funny because, as you know, and just will tell your audience too, my first job out of college was as a television reporter. So this is my world, television. Question that you didn't ask. You asked some good questions, Mitchell. I'm really you stumped me. What question didn't you ask?
This is sort of another way to think about this, if you want, is based on what you've shared so far. Is there something you'd want to summarize, something that you really want to that's out there and you really want to share?
Yeah. Well, what I would like to share is, for those of you out there who are feeling stuck, there's always a way out. You might feel stuck in this moment, but if you create a plan, you can design what's next for you. I have full faith, but it takes a lot of reflection and it takes a lot of action. So once you've reflected on where you feel like you need to make a change, Then you create a plan. And then you take one day at a time. It doesn't happen overnight. So you have to be patient with yourself. You have to be patient with the process, but you can get to where you want to go. And I will add in, because this is my very favorite word, and I think you know this, Mitchell, I'm on a mission to get everybody into the sweet spot of what is called Ikigai. And Ikigai is the Japanese word that means, translated to English, your reason for being. And what it is, for those MBAs out there who love Venn diagrams, it's the middle of a Venn diagram of what you're good at, what you love to do, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. So when you're thinking about your life, I don't want you to just think about your passions. I want you to think about, what am I good at? What are my natural gifts? And what are my passions? But also, how can I solve for what the world needs right now, today? And then, of course, to keep the lights on in your house, how can I get paid?
Well, that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that incremental wisdom, which was really powerful. I'm a big Ikigai fan, so thank you, Mary. Thanks so much for spending time with us today, and for really sharing you, which is, I felt really comfortable that we were able to share who you were and how you show up in the world.
I always love our conversations, Mitchell. So thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. Hey, so listening audience or watching audience, this is now your time to act. This is your time to spread Mary's cred dust. If there is an idea or a thought or action that you are inspired to do based on this conversation, it's now time to take that, make sure you give her credit, and then share it on the platform that makes sense for you. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you at the next episode of Leaders Living Their Values. Take care, everyone. Bye now. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you found value in today's episode. Like, subscribe, and share your aha moments on your preferred platform. Remember, credibility starts with clarity and living your values. Learn more at mitchelllevy.com. Until next time.